Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Pachuto, and I'm very excited to have my new friend, the one and only Mr. Imari Williams, on the pod with us today. Imari, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, John? Thank you so much for having me on today, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm super excited. Can you give a quick introduction to who you are to the listeners?
Sure. My name is Imari Williams, and I'm a voiceover actor. I've been voiceover acting since 2007. Was my first actual full paying gig. You're not really a voice actor until you start making money on your first gig. So the first time I made money was in 2007. You can hear me on stuff as on commercials like Planet Fitness. They have a new BK campaign out, which is a lot of singing. But before that, I was kind of doing the voice of BK for a little bit. You can also hear me on A&E. I do lots of the promo there, as well as a documented series called Neighborhood Wars, Christmas Wars, Road Wars, and Customer Wars now. So I'm doing all the wars. I'm going to battle. And I also work on video games. You can hear me on World of Warcraft.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I do like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty. I do animation. So I've done Black Adam, Lego Black Adam, Transformers Rescue Bots. You can hear me as Boulder.
Nice.
Anime, you can hear me as a whole horse on JoJo Bizarre. You can hear me as one of the Hashiras on Demon Slayer, which is one of my favorite animes. I'm on One Punch Man, so I kind of try to span the globe of what I do. But
Well, yeah.
That's what I am in a nutshell. I am a voiceover actor.
That's fucking awesome. So, how does one get started in voiceover acting? Because it seems like, I mean, you just listed 1,000 things that you've done, right? So there seems to be like literally no limitations to what one can do in the field. But like, how do you get started in doing something like that?
That is a question for everybody because, everyone who's interested in voiceover acting, they feel like it's this enigma. They want to know more about it, which is one of the best things about this field is just explaining to people what we do. And those who are interested in it will ask me questions because I try to mentor people who are really serious about it. And the answer is everyone has their own journey. Everyone's journey is different. I traditionally started off as an actor. I wanted to be an on-camera actor, and I studied with this coach. Her name is Leslie Kahn, and she's a well-known coach in Los Angeles. This is before she blew up. Now I can't even call her and say, "Hey, can I talk to Leslie?" They'll be like, "Who are you?" I have no idea who you are. She's like, it's like Lee Strasberg. She's like kind of has the schools like Lee Strasberg or Stanislavski or these acting schools. She's kind of running them now. But I started off in her house, wanted to be an on-camera actor, had dreams, and I'm a Los Angeles boy. And I basically wound up getting in through it over the years because I didn't become an on-camera actor, obviously. But I worked at a place that does commercials, and through the commercials, I started doing what they call scratch tracks. And so they started using my voice on scratch tracks, and then I'll explain a little bit more as we go in the interview. But basically, I kind of fell into it that way. I worked at a post-production house, and they used my voice. Now, anyone who's interested in voiceovers, the traditional route is you take classes, you basically take workshops, you get to know people who are potentially booking things. And then off of that, you get little bits and pieces of stuff that you can scrounge together because really, when you want to get an agent, it's a little bit hard to just say, "Hey, I want to be a voiceover actor." They say, "Okay, what have you done? And what can you give us? What can you give us to make us make money and you make money?" And until you get that, you're basically out there on your own, trying to get your own jobs, networking. So it's a lot of who you know. It's a lot of your skills, how well you act, how passionate you are on it, and also how many times you can hear no.
That's life in a nutshell for sure.
Yeah.
So as like an LA boy, obviously you grew up with aspirations being just a regular actor, right?
Yeah.
So what were those early days like? I mean, I'm assuming
Oh my
post high
God.
school, post college, like what was that journey like when you were finally like, okay, I need to like get a real job? I'm using air quotes.
No, I know. Real. I always, my parents. I come from a divorced house, right? So my parents divorced at 3, and each set of my parents are like extreme professionals. My mama she was a news manager, and she worked at KTLA, CBS News, and then ended her news career at Fox, which you know I think she would have gone longer if she didn't end up at Fox, but she ended it over there. It kind of burned her out after that.
Yeah, understandable.
And
Yeah.
so, and then my second father is a psychologist. Kind of brought himself up and put himself through school. So did my mom. My biological father, Ron Williams, Dr. Ronald Williams, as he's called, is a pediatrician. Also headed the asthma center. Was on the board of Kaiser in Fontana. My second mother has a doctorate in osteoporosis. I totally forgot her doctorate title. Kathy, don't get mad at me if you hear this interview. I forgot the title, but she was first a nurse, and then she was a stay-at-home mom for me and my sister Noelle, my half sister Noelle, full sister. I don't view my sisters as half sisters. My full sister Noelle, and then she took time out and got her doctorate and became a doctor at the age of 50, I believe.
Damn.
And so, so I basically, what was the question again? It was, how did I ADD'd out.
Well, I was like, I was like, just saying that, it's a great lead into me furthering that question, because clearly you come from a very, very professional, albeit split household, but like doctors and professionals and newsroom people.
Yeah.
What was the initial pull for you?
There we go. That's what made me go. There we go. So me growing up, I knew I did not want to do any of that. I was I was like, no, me no want to be a doctor. Me no want to be a medical. Me no want to be a psychologist. I've always wanted to be an actor. I feel I've always loved television. I always loved animation. I've always loved cinema. My whole life. I knew I wanted to be something other than what they were. I knew deep down inside of my heart, I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I also drew as well. I wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to be so many things growing up, an inventor. I wanted to be a mechanic. I wanted to be, I wanted to do all these things. And then I kind of fell on illustration, art and illustration. And I wanted to be an artist. So I bounced around from different schools. I was not really a scholastic kid. I have ADD, so we didn't find that out. You have same. Yeah, it's
ADHD. Yeah,
ADHD. Yeah. So it's like, So it's. I bounced around a lot trying to figure out where my place was scholastically wise. I was basically a C student. Went to like private schools, to this school, to learning educational schools, to schools that had little kids. To school. I fell on a gift from God, I believe, at this place called Los Angeles High School for the Arts. And it's at the Cal State LA campus. It's called LACHSA for short. And it's like fame. It's like a fame school. You have a music department.
I've heard of it, actually.
Heard of it? Yeah. We have Josh Groban went there. Kahinde, who did the portrait for Obama, went there. We have my friend Tony, who plays with Kamasi Washington. It's like I didn't know what I dove into, and I got into a school of like basically it grew. I don't want to say groom, because groom is such a negative thing now, but it established a foundation for art, and it really trained me to just be in that kind of work environment. I didn't do anything. I went there for illustration. I was a comic book nerd. So I wanted to do comic books. I want to draw comic books as well. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this school. I want to learn how to do that. And within me going to school, I got in for illustration, but then I also learned advertising. I learned sculpture. I learned jewelry design. I learned art and composition, fine arts, rendering, just everything within art. I learned there to prop me up and to go into the field of art. And what I discovered, but I had a secret passion because when I was doing this, and through elementary, I loved to act. I loved to act. I loved being on stage. If you were to ask me, really, what I want to do was to be an actor. It was to be an on-camera actor. And the reason I went to when I went to that school, I didn't go to acting because my parents were such professionals that they were basically like, how is the school going to make money? It sounds like you're going to be kind of playing around and then doing your education too. Because what you would do is you stay there from 8 o'clock to 4:30 in the after 4:30 and early evening, and you would do your scholastics and then you would do your art, and then that would last all day, your projects and stuff. So they were like, well, this sounds like a school that's like, for fun. And I don't, how are you going to spin this into like making money? That was the whole thing. How are you going to get a job after this? And blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing was me just being like, successful, which parents should be. Parents should want success for their child. Mm-hmm. So my thing was like, okay, well, I can make money being an illustrator, right off the bat. You can't really say that about an actor. So I went there for illustration, even though I could have gone there for acting. And I really regretted that I didn't go over there for acting because, you go to LACHSA, you learn movement, you learn improv, you learn set design, you learn just so many different everything, man. And I saw them do that when I was there, and I so desperately wanted to be there. But once you're there, you're in your science stuff, blah blah blah. So I did not get into acting until after I graduated, and so my mom just campaigned for me to get into school because so many kids wanted to go to school. It was like such a coveted spot. And so she made brownies. Like I auditioned twice, and she gave me the art classes I needed. She invested her time. Without my mom, Akila Gibbs, I will say I would not be, at that level. She really worked hard, and I got in for my junior year, for my sophomore year, and I got there. I stayed there all the way up until my senior year. So yeah, man. And so then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to be an actor. Like after I got out of school, I was like, yeah, I love illustration, but it's more of a hobby. That's what I kind of learned. But I took everything I learned there, and I still use it to this day, just work ethically wise and everything. And so I was like, I want to be an actor. And then my mom paid for acting classes with Leslie Kahn, and that was my journey into sharpening that skill.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. I mean, talk about having like a very selective high school experience, and without question outside of the norm of a typical American sort of idyllic, it's a Hollywood fucking high school.
Dude, everyone was there, brother. It was like, I shit you not, Wiccans, Jewish religion, faith, Muslim faith. I mean, I had a friend named Joanna, and she freaked me out because I came from because in my scholastic search, I went to a fundamentalist Christian school, and they put the fear of God in my ass. And it was it was one of those schools where you if the sin causes you to sin, if something causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. All that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It was during the age of when I was 13, so hormones were just ravaging my body, and I was fucking I was all about I was all about thinking about when I was gonna get laid. You know what I'm saying? That was my whole thing. When am I gonna get laid? When am I gonna get a girlfriend? Blah, blah, blah. And so you're going to school that tells you those thoughts are evil, and this is bad and all that stuff, and then on the inside, that you want to sin. I remember myself in class. It was Bible study, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a sinner because I'm not. There's no way I'm gonna. I'm not waiting until I'm married. And but it was like
a really cool experience. Yeah, I mean, it's cool because it's different, right? So I think to some degree it also sets you up to the alternative life path that you're clearly on. I think anyone who's in any sort of a creative career is living an alternative life path, which I'm fortunate enough to be one of those people as well.
Yes.
When you started into your acting journey, I've had some actors on the podcast before. I find it to be probably least enjoyable profession I could possibly imagine. I mean, just the sheer amount of times that you guys get told no, right? And it could be based on anything that is completely and utterly outside of your own
Yeah,
control. It's like it's an exhaustive sort of career
yeah,
to take under.
it is.
But obviously, you didn't do it to the degree that you were hoping to, which led to the career in voiceover. But
Right.
what was that journey like early on when you're trying to like make your dreams come true and you're being told no repeatedly? And what was that like doing to your confidence in trying to pursue your passion and your love?
So when I started doing acting, one thing that Leslie always like talked about was you're going to be rejected a lot, and you need to be prepared for that. And you need to love what you do. You need to love to act. You need to love this craft and go into it with genuinely because of the love. Because if you're going into it to make money, number one, you will not achieve evolution as an actor because you will be thinking about money. What can I do to get money? Well, your performance won't be genuine. Your reasons unpure. You need to love to be an actor. You need to love the process. You need to love memorizing lines, and you need to love the fear that you have when you're about to go in front of the camera. And those are things that are just like kind of crazy. It comes with just like there's some people who just really have the knack. They know I'm supposed to do this, and there's some people who are like I don't know. And so you have to get past yourself. You have to love yourself in a nice and not love yourself and like I'm going to be famous. Love myself. It's
Yeah.
more of like I love myself and I know that I can do this if I really put my mind to it. But honestly, after I was done studying with Leslie, I got scared. I have a friend. He's a we have a family friend, Michael Tolkien, and he wrote the book The Player, and
Oh shit.
he also wrote the film, I believe, with Tim Robbins, and not with with Tim Robbins. And so I told him I want to be an actor. He's like, no, you don't. You don't want to be an actor. You don't
Yeah.
want to do it. And I was like, no, I really want to be it. He goes, no, I don't want you to be an actor. And I was like, well, why not? He goes like, it's degrading. It'll kind of takes a little bit of your soul away. And he's like, you have to really be in. I was like, I assured him, I was like, I really want to do it. And so he got me on this. He got me my first walk on for this. He was trying to adapt the player for small screen. It was with Patrick Dempsey and Jennifer Grey. This is Jennifer Grey sans, her nose job. So I
Hmm.
didn't know who Jennifer. I didn't know it was Jennifer Grey, but I had a huge crush on Jennifer Grey before she had the nose job on Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
I had a huge crush on her, and
Yeah.
so I was on the job, and I was doing this one scene where I got to walk on and say one line, and I had no idea that Michael was setting me up to get my Taft Hartley. Now, for those out there, Taft Hartley is basically it's your ticket into the union. So if you get Taft Hartley into it, you can automatically pay to get into the union, and that's what people are looking for when they hire you for something. They're like, are you union? Because
Hmm.
then you can go on to the big jobs. Non-union, you kind of like get you don't really get the
It's
jobs. You don't really
harder.
get it's
Yeah.
harder, right? So I had no idea. All the extras were pissed. They were like, "How the hell did you get a line?" I'm like, I just got a line. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then so I said my line, but in between takes, I talked to Patrick. Patrick was studying with Leslie Kahn. And so he's the one who said, hey, why don't you go and study with my teacher, Leslie? Because I was asking him about how he got started and everything. I was just sitting there talking to McDreamy.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
like, holy shit. And then I was talking to Jennifer, who was just the sweetest woman. She's just such a sweetheart. And it was like, I had no idea who she was, but I was like, who's this sweet woman talking to me? And then Michael was like, that was Jennifer Grey. I was like, oh my God. I was like, anyway, through there, that's how I met Leslie. And then when I was ready to go after I graduated Leslie, I went out and I got scared to fucking death. I'm 6'3", and I've never been like an ultra lean person. You know what I'm saying? I've always struggled with my weight growing up. It's always been a kind of source of stuff. And even though looking back in the day, I was like, oh, I look pretty good in my 20s. I
Yeah.
thought that I was like on screen, I looked fucking huge. I was like
Uh,
6'3", 6'4". Most actors are within 5'9", 5'10". I doubted myself. I was like, well, what kind of roles can I get? You know what I'm saying? Like doing these these roles. I'm going to be like the gangster. I'm going to be some dude's bodyguard, enforcer. Like, how can I get these roles? Um, so I kind of talked myself out of it, man. And I started kind of fucking around and doing, customer service jobs. And it wasn't until I reached my 30s that I got serious about like getting my life together, and that's where I discovered voiceovers. Well, actually, everyone said I had a voice growing up, and I should be on radio. My friend Steve Moreno tried to get me to do voiceovers, but I was horrible. I didn't know what to do. Like, he was like, "Here, man, I think you do really good. Read the script." And I was like, Yukonuba, feed your dog the food it needs. Yukonuba. Like, and he was like, oh, like, he was like, oh, I saw his face sink. He's like, oh man, I don't know.
He's like, you can't do this.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're gonna have to take some lessons. And we just kind of dropped the whole subject. And I think I like tried to explore it like later on, but it was horrible because I didn't understand it. And it wasn't until I started at Cosmo Street, which is which is the job that I still work there doing scratch tracks for them now.
What's a scratch track?
Scratch track is when you lay down when you have a commercial, you lay down what they call the scratch track for the editors to follow. So when you hear a commercial, it's like, come on down to Toyota. We'll give you that new Toyota Tundra for just $39.99 a month, blah, 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 blah. So when you have that kind of stuff, the editor needs to, first of all, the editor gets a shot book, and they look at all the different shots and where they want the graphics to line up and where they want this to line up. And almost every commercial has like a little voiceover or a little music or whatever. So they have to organize that and structure that. So normally what an editor does, they'll put their own voice in it, and they'll just kind of like, whatever, just here, put my voice. Some editors have gotten stuff. I think the guy from Apple used to be an editor, and he got his own spot. Yeah. So what I used to do is people knew I acted, but I was also doing PA work at Cosmo. And then this editor, Tessa Davis, she was like, Imari, you sound like you have this deep voice. Why don't you come? Can you do the scratch track for me? And I was like, yeah, I would love to. And it was at the time she was doing Burger King, and Burger King was by this guy named Lance. He was this guy. You sound like this. So every time you talk to him, like, hey, my name's Lance. How are you doing? Oh, it's great. So all this stuff was like Burger King, the tender crisp. So I could do Lance, right? And she was like, oh, just do Lance. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, the BK tender crisp, shut it up with the BK tender crisp. Like, it was like, doing shit like that. Yeah. And then I would kind of like, then they'd have spots for like Old Navy. And this is back in like the day when Old Navy had this campaign where they had this guy sound like a newsreel guy. It kind of sounds like this. Okay, come on in, Old Navy. We'll make sure we get your jeans and we'll get it on. Old Navy. And so like, he's like, oh, Old Navy, we got this. And so I learned how to do that. And then in between this, I'm learning how to take direction because we had the clients there from Crispin Porter Bogusky, who worked on Old Navy. I forgot which branch was doing BK. I think BK was also Crispin at one point. Then they went to another place. Anyway, so that's what scratch tracks are basically understudy tracks. I'm not gonna ADD out. I'm gonna get back to the day. Scratch tracks are basically understudy tracks where they use it to kind of guide the editor when they're through their editing process. And then what they do is they go ahead and they cast the actual voice for it.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So through that process of doing these scratch tracks, someone was like, this scratch track is fucking good. Why are we not just letting him do the regular voice?
So everyone at Cosmo was like, oh, Imari does pretty good scratch tracks. So then I was doing I went from doing one editor to doing like almost every editor in the Cosmo Street. I'd put my voice on something that they would do, whether it be Toyota campaign when they were there or Old Navy. And so the first time I got it was my friend Sean Lagrange, who is now an editor. He was assistant editor at the time. He was a vault manager who hazed my ass the first time I worked there. He gave me a bunch of blank digibetas to fucking blacken code. And he was like, hey, you can't go home until these are done. It was like, boom. I was like, what the fuck? And anyway, he fucking hazed my ass. But he got promoted to assistant. Editor. Yeah, well, not an full editor. Yeah, he had to be assistant for years. And then he was like, hey, Imari, I'm doing this thing for Sony CyberShot. Would you mind putting your voice on it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I don't want anything stylized. We just want like a normal read. And I was like, well, a normal read? He goes, yeah, just don't put anything on it. Just make it regular. And I was like, and I had never done a normal read before. I don't know what the fucking normal read is. I was like, what's a normal read? And so I was like, fuck, so don't put anything on it. So just maybe I should just like, what does that sound like? Because I had never taken classes before. for voiceovers, right? I was kind of like just imitating people that I heard on commercial. So then I was like, I've heard those commercials where the voice sounds a little impartial, right? Where it sounds like I can really give a shit. I'm going to tell you about this product, and you're going to listen to the product, and you're going to make a decision, but not based on my voice. I'm going to be very streamlined. I'm going to be very like down the middle, so you don't know who I am. I'm very ambiguous, and so so that was the voice I went with. So that was like, so it was for Sony CyberShot. It was the first time you can connect your camera to the TV with HD quality. So it was like. It was like I think the tagline was like, watch your favorite movies like you watch your favorite TV shows in high definition. Then it was like HD, it's in our DNA, and that was it, right? And so I did that. They kept my voice on it like the whole time they were there, and then Matt was like, "Hey, they like your voice on this," and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, what does that mean?" And he was like, "I think they want to use you," and I was like, "Oh shit." So I was like, cool. So then they went ahead and they fucking used me, man. And I got Taft-Hartley'd in because at that time I was still non-union. I didn't take advantage of the Taft-Hartley I'd gotten back in the day because I had no idea what the hell that was. I didn't really, I didn't know. And so I was Taft-Hartley'd into the commercial, which basically for those out there, when you just to reiterate, when you Taft-Hartley, it's so that the union can use you even though you're non-union, and you can be Taft-Hartley'd up to 3 times. So, and I want to sign and bring me back too if I get too far off. When you join the union, you have to pay your dues, right? You have to pay your quarterly dues and all that stuff. Now, for those who are struggling with acting or making their way, let's say they get let's say they get one union thing, and then that's it for like maybe 2 years. Well, then you're still paying dues within those times. So something deep inside was like, don't join SAG just yet. Let's see how many other stuff we can do, and then we'll join when I really need to. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I just kind of like kept getting Taft-Hartley'd if they liked me, and then eventually I had to join.
That is fucking cool. I mean, there's a movie with Lake Bell and In a World, I think it's called.
In a World.
Yeah. So it's one of my sneaky favorite movies just because I think she's so fucking good in that movie.
Yeah, she's so good in that movie.
But like until that movie came out, and then there was the corresponding documentary that released shortly thereafter with the guy who does like Mr. Movie Trailer or whatever his name was.
Yeah,
I think he might have died.
With John LaFontaine.
Yeah,
yes, we call him the voice, man. We call him we call him El Voce. Yeah. He's like he was a man who started that in the world. Like that was his baby, and anything you hear after that was because of him. So like we always give credit to Don.
Yeah, so like before that movie, the fictional one with Lake Bell, and then the corresponding documentary that came out shortly thereafter with him.
Right.
The world of voiceover, I feel like, was very not talked about. Like it was just something that happened, and it was just out there, and I knew nothing of it. And then you learn about the wild, wonderful world that is voiceover acting. It's an incredible way to make a living. So you've been lucky enough to be doing it for a lot of years now. I'm super curious, like, because you sort of, I don't want to say stumbled into it, but it just is like how life is, right? You evolve into something that just ends up being your thing that you have a knack for, that you're awesome at. That, I mean, I can hear it just on this fucking podcast. Like it just sounds like, you say something that's like accidentally sounds like you're doing a commercial, but you know what I'm saying? Man. When you like, I fell into my photography career in my 30s. So I've come at life sort of like the later part of my 30s where, you start wondering like, you start wondering, like, am I going to find my thing? Am I going to find the thing that makes me happy? And I think that happens for everyone. But was there any point in your journey leading up to when like voice acting started clicking for you that you had any doubts about being successful in something that you happen to love?
Fuck, man. I've doubted myself since like I can remember. It's horrible. I doubt myself to this day. You know what I'm saying? Like I deal with that. Like I deal with, having ADD was hard, man. Like it was like you feel like you were just dumb. You know what I'm saying? You have your teachers telling you you're misbehaving. You have your parents saying like, I know how smart you are. I know what you can do. I know you can do it if you just apply yourself. Mm-hmm. And you just don't have the mental bandwidth to fucking do all that shit, right? What you do have the mental bandwidth is to apply to things that interest you, right? Mm-hmm. you get excited about things that you're interested in, you know? So it took teachers to really bring that out to make things interesting for me. But if it was like textbook, if I had to read anything in class, if I had to listen to someone with a droned out voice, you know, wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
wah, I would fucking fall asleep. I would
Yeah.
lose concentration. I would make jokes. I would get in trouble.
Yeah,
And so
same, man.
like,
Kicked
you
out of
know,
class.
just kicked out of class, principal's office. Imari did this. Imari's so bright, but Imari's so bright, but. So it was always like, you know, am I worthy of having the success or having the ability to be good at something, right? I just,
Wow.
you know, I never felt like I really accomplished myself as an artist because I didn't feel like I was as good as, you know, at the time, Jim Lee. I was trying to be like Jim Lee. It took so much effort to like, you know, get my hands right or draw the feet or draw action poses. And I was like, man. And then like, you know, and then like when it came to acting, I think the one thing I felt for sure is with my acting. I think one thing I knew, I will say one thing I'm good at, because I think that there's something that I think there's things that people know that they're good at. And I'm not going to be this guy who goes, I never was good at. No, I think I was pretty good at meeting people. I was good at cultivating relationships. I was great on interviews. When in high school, I had my first job at 13, and I basically worked ever since then, like $2.50 an hour at a comic book shop, sweeping up shit. Like it was, they used me for slave labor basically because $2.50 an hour wasn't shit. And like 60, I worked 8 hours. I got $16 $16 for the day, and I fucking sweated my ass. I was like, what the fuck is this? So that was great because I was like, well, I don't want to do this shit to make this little money. So that kind of instilled me, I want to do something. But I had to really just kind of like, you know, it took some therapy. I also have OCD. So, you know, a lot of things.
That's an interesting combination.
It's a crazy combination.
Jesus. Yeah. Fuck though. Yeah. I mean, dude, if I was you know, I'm not gonna lie, I have a little bit of OCD, but it only really relays into like even numbers on things. Like, I know that's weird.
No, like, it's not weird. That's OCD, dude.
If it was OCD with like being clean or like having like my apartment organized, forget about it. And I have ADD. My God,
it's fucking hell.
My window.
I mean, but the thing is that like it's like your own domain is your own. So OCD is very much like it's like basically being like being extra superstitious. You know what I'm saying? My OCD was harm coming to my parents because I love my parents more than anything. Harm to my family. I got into this whole fear of Satanism because of this fundamentalist school. I was like scared of like disappointing God, so that got into my head. And then also cleanliness. So like it manifested in different ways. So like with my OCD, I could walk on a crack and I could think of the word my mom's gonna die. And what I would do is I would go back over the crack, step on it, and say my mom's gonna live. And that's how it really started. And then like I started doing more and more. So like I turned the light switch off and like death. And I'd have to turn the light switch back on and go life. Like in my head. Like death, life, death, life, death. Like, and I had to do it until I didn't hear it anymore. So to the average person, it looks like this. It looks like someone doing this, and they don't understand. They're just like, "Hey, how you doing?" Click, 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 click. They're like, "What are you doing?" Like, and what you're doing is you're doing your trigger,
ritual.
Right? Your ritual. And a lot of people don't understand that. So if you ever see anyone who kind of does some weird jerky movements after they say something, or maybe like, because it can also be tied to Tourette's as well. So some people roll their eyes to the side. Some people do this like jerky thing. That's also Tourette's is kind of tied into that as well. So I had to do behavioral therapy. So I've been in therapy since I was like 14. I had behavioral therapy to help me get the tools to control having OCD, and then I had to have therapy for my ADD. And so I've been in therapy like my whole life. I mean, off and on, my teens, my 20s.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think, you know, so for context, for like the last almost 3 years of my life. So I lost my job in the middle of the pandemic, and I was like, fuck. I'm fucked. Like, this is it. Like, no one was hiring. Like, I think at times it's easy to forget how fucking crazy those first 6 months of the pandemic was, because the world was fucking nuts.
No one knew what the fuck they were doing. No one.
Yeah. The fucking grocery stores, the toilet paper, the fucking all that shit. It's like we have very short-term memory when it comes to like how chaotic those first 6 months were, even the first year.
Yeah.
So I lose my job in the first few months of the, in August of 2020.
Shit.
And I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm completely fucked. I was like, I had changed careers. I took this job in March of 2020. 2 days in, we went remote. And then in August, I get laid off. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with my life. Like,
Right.
I'm just like in a position where I'm fucked, like totally fucked. And I was able to sort of find my path into photography. And then now this podcast that I think like over time, like, the right things in your life present themselves to you at the right moments. But I do give a lot of credit to like going to therapy and like figuring out myself and asking myself questions that I spent zero time asking myself in my 20s or even my early 30s, because I never really stopped to think about those things. Right. And I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for therapy, if it wasn't for the fucking pandemic. Like my life would be in a completely different place right now. And I'm in a weird way, I'm like thankful for all of that chaos.
Yeah.
But I am a big believer that like everything sort of falls into place as it should. And I love therapy for that. I think, without having given that clarity to who I am through all of those sessions and all those hours, I don't know what the fuck I'd be doing right now. I'd probably be miserable.
I thank God that my dad, my second father, is a psychologist, because I was hiding my OCD from my parents. It would take me, like, my mom was so angry because I would take forever to get ready because I kept on putting my belt on and off because I'd have evil thoughts. And I want to clarify to people out there too. There's the thoughts are also associated with schizophrenia. So, like, when I say thoughts, I'm not thinking about like I'm hearing actual thoughts. They're just like, how you talk to yourself. There's like kind of things that you say to yourself that you're like, oh my God, that's going to happen. And like, I'm going to come back to that. But I had a therapist one time, my friend Chio. She said one time I had a reoccurrence in my 20s. And I was like, I had this thing where I couldn't leave a conversation without feeling like I left it in a weird way. So I'd be thinking about the conversation like maybe hours after I'd finished it. Like, God, did I sound right? Did I sound that? I looked like I was like, did I say something that might have offended them? Maybe. I was so worried about how I left the conversation. And one day, and this is kind of like basically people's ability to control things that are outside of their control, right?
Yeah.
I can't control how people receive me, because if I'm meaning well-intentioned, I'm being well-intentioned. That's the only way I know how to do it. So if there's someone out there that might misconstrue that, then there's nothing. I can't do anything about that, right?
Yeah.
But so she said, she was like, Chio Maniwa. I love her so much. She said, after I explained this to her, she goes, wow, Mari, you must be extremely powerful. And I was like, huh? I mean, I'm talking about like God level power, because the way you say goodbye to someone dictates how their day is going to go. And that's power. And I was like, huh? And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, listen, man, I love you. You have a great personality. You're a very handsome young man, but you're just not that powerful. Yeah. And I was like, wow, you're absolutely right. She goes, you aren't that powerful, man. You're not that special. You can't,
I was gonna say, how close to that conversation, and then you starting to feel like you're worthy of like good things happening to you, were that in relation to like your life and timeline? Because to me, that seems like a very impactful conversation in terms of like reshaping someone's mental capacity to be like,
Dude, that's so funny that you said that, because it was with her. I was seeing her because I was creeping on 30, and I had spent all my 20s fucking around. I lived in my mom's house till I was 26, and I went to a 420 party, and I had Vicodin on me, I had shrooms, and I had weed. And I got pulled over because I had no tags on my car. I was basically partying like a freaking frat boy, going to like, USC, UCLA, because all my friends were there, and just partying out and using my mom as a flop house and all this other stuff. And kind of like, I was really scared to try. I was scared to move on. I was in this weird circling pattern of doing things that felt comfortable to me, which was talking and partying. And it wasn't until that happened where I actually got arrested because I had no tags and I'm in La Cañada, which, driving a 1981 Cadillac Seville with shag carpets, black, big and
Yeah.
black in La Cañada, which you don't want to be, especially without tags during that time. And, the cop pulled me over, goes, "What's up?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Oh, I'm going to search your vehicle." And of course, he found, Vicodin that my dad, I had gotten from like, not my dad, I got it from like a friend because I had like weird knee problems. So I would keep it on me because my knees were like, had arthritis or tendonitis. And sometimes they get so bad. So I would keep one when I really wanted. I rarely did it recreational, but the shrooms and the weed was. Either way, the cop didn't give a shit. He was like, clink, like, and I was in jail for like 2 days, and I tried to be quiet about it. And they sent me this notice to appear in court. I don't know I've never been in fucking jail before. I don't know what the fuck that is. Like, appear in court. Well, mom found it, and she called me up, and she's like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, "Well," I said, "I just have to appear." "No, you're being charged with drug possession. You can go to jail." And I was like, "What?" "Yes, I'm getting you a fucking lawyer, and you're going to straighten this out like immediately." And so I was like, "Oh shit." So I thank God that I didn't try to keep that to myself, because I was going to try. It was by mistake that she found the letter. And then she got me like an attorney. And then after that, she goes, "You know what, son, it's time for you to get out the house. It's time for you to leave now." Like, she was like, you're stuck, and you need to unstick yourself. It was the best thing she could have ever done for me. She gave me money to help move out. And then after that, I took over the bills myself. And of course, over my 20s, she'd help me out and stuff, but it was really like me paying the apartment. I went and moved in with my friend, and all that stuff. But closing on 30, I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, I'm like, I did not finish I did not finish junior college. I was at PCC for 6 years, 6 fucking years at PCC. It was unbelievable. And I did not know what I want. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." But deep down inside, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be an actor. That's what I want to be. And so, like, my when I went to Chio, my mom paid for it, and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna pay for you to go see my life coach, Chio, and I think she can help you out, because Chio dealt with ADD, and she dealt with organization, and she dealt with just organization mentally." And so when I went to go see her, my God, she just changed my life, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had the idea to go to Cosmo Street, which is where I got my start, and then that's what gave me my start into voiceovers. What I was going to do is, she was like, "So what do you want to do?" So I would ask myself this question, and I tell my friends this too. Like, when they feel stuck, I'm like, you know what you want to do. I think most people know what they want to do, but they've been programmed to think that their dreams are so far-fetched that is just ridiculous. It could either be you're part of a household where it's extremely traditional, and you say you want to do something artistic, and you're in a household that's like, "No, you must be a doctor, you must be a lawyer. This is the thing. This is the way." I had a lot of friends from Asian nationalities, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, that felt such an obligation to their family that they didn't really feel like they could be who they wanted to be, because they had this pressure. Number one, they're the eldest, and they had this pressure to succeed. And so they're extremely they had a lot of weight on their shoulders to be something. And so I think a lot of people, I think it's not just friends like that, but I think a lot of people have dreams. And I think reality gets in the way of those dreams, and it makes you scared. And it makes you not ask what you want to do. And so she's like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, so I asked myself every day, what do I want to do? I kept coming back to the same damn thing. I want to be an actor. I want to be in the industry. So she was like, I was like, "Well, it's too late for me to try to be an actor. I need to make money." So I was like, "Well, maybe I should be an editor." And I was like, I'm going to go to this LA recording school. She goes, "Hold on. Before you do that, why don't you find a job that has editing? Because you're almost 30. You're 29 years old. Do you want to really go in debt $50,000 over 3 years? You don't want that. Why don't you find a spot where you can go ahead and learn on the job and still make money?" And I was like, "All right." So, gift of gab, I applied to 2 places. Cosmo Street took me. I took a class of Moviola. Hated editing. I hated it. Thank God I did not spend 50. Thank God I did not try to do that shit, because it was the boringest shit for me ever. My thing is, I like to talk to people. I like to do that. I like to talk. I like to meet people. I like to act. I like to move around. So yeah, yeah,
In a lot of ways, it feels like your life was pushing you cosmically to doing what you're doing now. And
yeah,
it's funny. Listen, I've been a big proponent of the fact that like I found the thing that I love to do in this world, whether it's my photography or my podcast. Like I know I'm doing the two things that I'm meant to be doing.
yeah,
Maybe in a few years that'll include directing and video stuff. Maybe who the fuck
yes,
knows? Like I
yeah,
don't know what the future holds, but it will be more or less doing the same things that I have. I think it takes some brief period in your early 30s for you to be of the understanding that it's never too late to chase a dream, and like your dream life is totally available to you no matter what. And
yes,
after a while, like the things that you're meant to be doing, the people that are meant to be part of your life, all of those things start kind of coalescing and lining up in front of you. It's just
yeah,
obviously up to you to sort of recognize that. And I think it's just very funny how, we have very similar, albeit different paths to sort of that same understanding and getting to a point where, you've aligned the person with who you are and the career that you're meant to have. I think that's pretty cool because it's a relatable thing. Like you said, it's easy to be scared to make drastic holistic changes in your life, but if you're miserable, if you're lost, if you're unassuming or unaware of what you should be doing,
yeah,
it's easy to be like fearful for taking a risk. But
yeah.
like at the end of the day, you got to take those chances to be able to find the thing that you're supposed
You
to be
have to.
doing. And yeah, I mean, you're a great perfect example of that because you've took multiple chances in your 20s and into your 30s, and then you finally found the thing that you love most, which is fucking really cool, like
It's
really cool.
I think I am like I was raised Christian, but I'm really like I'm a very like I'm spiritual is what I am. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a spiritual man. I believe in someone higher than me. You know what I'm saying? But I don't like to proselytize people. I have my own journey. I have my own thing, and I've always felt a connection. Um, if this makes sense with the universe, I always felt watched over
Yeah.
in a way.
Hmm. Same.
My mama said that when I was born, she gave a rabbi a ride. He was stranded. She gave a rabbi a ride to the temple, to his temple. He was in a rush, and I guess on the way out, he gave me a Jewish blessing when I was a kid. And I always felt like, I always felt blessed. I always felt like, oh, I always felt watched over. I don't know what it is
Yeah.
because everything I've done has always guided me through my life, and I get goosebumps thinking about it because when I worked at Cosmo Street, I was working for I didn't really get that much raises over there. I was working, but what I did get was I kept getting jobs, and they would allow me the opportunity to audition. They allowed me the opportunity to pursue this. Yvette Covarrubias, I love this woman with all my heart. I think about her and I get like a little tear because she's hardcore, man. She started off as a receptionist for Cosmo Street, and now she's the part owner of
Wow.
Cosmo Street. They have offices from Los Angeles to Illinois, in Miami, New York, and she was pulling for me behind the scenes. I remember I talked to her, and she'd give me maybe like 10 seconds before her eyes started drifting off to the side. I had to make it quick, make it better, and she was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah." But behind the scenes, she was telling people how much she loved me. She was pushing me. She was saying, "Hey, Amari does scratch. Get him on there." And you cannot succeed without the help of a village. I don't,
Hmm.
I don't care. Someone in your life gives you an opportunity, right? Now, whether you take that opportunity or not, or whether you take that opportunity seriously is all up to you. But
Hmm.
I believe there are people in your life, guardian angels that appear and they'll offer you, they'll say, "Here, take it." And if you are like in a place where you can't see the opportunity, if you can't feel what it is, you will miss it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And maybe the door will happen again, maybe the door will be different, but
Yeah.
you'll miss it. And so I felt like there were doors opening, and I felt like I was going straight, even though I was working till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was exhausted. I had a kid in a 1 bedroom apartment with my wife. Now we have two, but we all had two kids in a 1 bedroom apartment. I'm making $11.25 an hour, and I'm counting on these things to these jobs to help me out. And I always was provided for. as
Yeah.
long as I freaking went for it, right?
You know, it's funny. Just I'm a spiritual person. I grew up Catholic. I believe wholeheartedly in manifesting like your dreams into reality, because
Yeah,
I think just the belief that you said, like, it's very important for context purposes. Like, if you believe that the universe is looking out for you, and if you
yeah,
believe that things are meant for you, they're gonna happen. Like, it
yeah.
sounds so cheesy. Like, fucking 25-year-old John would be laughing his ass off at like hippie John being like, the universe is rooting for you, John. Just keep going. But it's fucking true. No, it really is true.
It
Because
really
like
is.
I've had a rough year, like both like financially and just like growth wise. It's been a rough year. 2022
Yeah,
sucked.
yeah.
But I know that this is like speed bump to like liftoff,
Just
right?
something
Like
better. Yeah,
planes have to bump on the runway before they take off. And like,
yeah,
I know that I'm bumping on the runway before I take off. I know it. I believe it. And I think that is the mentality that allows me to be successful next year and the year after.
yes,
And those beliefs, whether you need to chalk it up to God or Allah or
yeah.
whatever, it doesn't matter. If
Jehovah.
you believe, yeah, right. If you believe that the universe is looking out for you, it's going to provide. And I truly do believe that.
Yeah,
And you also mentioned the fact that like it takes a village. I think the best part about life that you learn as you get older is that when you put other people in positions to be successful, that happens for you. So
yeah,
like when you show up for other people and you do the right things for other people, that karma comes back on you in some
yeah,
unknown way. Like I helped somebody out do a job like a few months ago, and that has turned into like me getting a reoccurring client every month for something
yeah.
that they can't do anymore because they've got something else going on. And I just
One,
really
yeah,
believe that if you put up for other people, that comes back for you as well. It's like we live in a very exhausting time in the world,
yeah,
but if you do the right things and you act the right way and you try to not be a totally shitty person, like
yeah.
good things can happen to you.
I,
Um,
yeah. I try to pay it
yes.
back. I had so many people like who helped me along the way. How can I not help do the same for someone else? Right? You don't just take your toys and say, "Oh, I got these toys. Great, they're my toys now." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're no, don't touch them. No, I'm gonna be like, if someone asks me for help, I'm gonna help. You know what I'm saying? Like, if someone
Hmm.
says, "How can I do this, Amari?" and you're sincere. Now, I will say, everyone and their mama comes down and says, "Oh, I'd like to make a quick buck. How do I get a VO?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, no,
Right.
no, no. I'm like, no, and I get it. It's almost insulting to me
Yeah.
because I had a lot of shit to I had a lot of fear, man. I had people say, you can't make a living on voiceovers. Oh, you're great, Amari, but it's really hard to make a living on voiceovers because I believe within the journey you're also set with with discouragement because
Hmm.
you might be on a path and you'll have people naysayers like saying, "Oh, this is you're good, but maybe not that good," or "You're this, or maybe you got to do this." Oh God, it took me so long to do this, but then I had to just finally give up. So then you have people who've given up on their dreams, kind of like
Hmm.
to weigh you down. You have people who are maybe not in the mind state to succeed and to get what they want. So then you kind of like they kind of try to grab you back. It's like misery loves company.
Yeah.
So I felt a lot of people like, holding me back. And God, what kind of stuff is that? That seems like an unattainable thing. Blah blah blah. That seems like a nice little hobby. All this
Yeah.
shit for years, man. And I had to I had to swat it. I had to go. Get
You
that,
know, those
what's that Kendrick Lamar song? Get that to love me like her, just to love me like her.
but it's like those it's that limiting belief system that will impact people's ability to be successful,
Yeah,
right? Like just even removing those people from your life and that like negative cloud that, oh, it's cool but you can't do blah blah blah, or oh, that's
exactly.
awesome, so great, but you can't do blah blah. It's like, I don't need that shit. Like, get the
No,
fuck out of here with that.
no. But then some people think they do need that because that's what's been around their whole life. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, we're only a product of our environment. And so, like, everyone, like, I was given the tools. Can you even imagine someone with OCD and ADD with an ignorant parents who think that they're just possessed by Satan? Or maybe
No.
like someone who's like thinks that, oh, you're just lazy. Why can't you try harder? And they've
Yeah.
never had the resources. Like, I have had a middle class, an upper middle class, like, then when I come from a successful family, black, upper middle class, you know what I'm saying? Which, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I thought
Privilege.
was well, I came from privilege.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think I always had a little bit of survivor's remorse which is why I want to be like Ice Cube when I was growing up. Like, nah, man, I ain't really like, and that's the thing, like in black communities. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there's lots of successful black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just me growing up. What do you get? What does the media want to show you? They want to show the dudes who's on crack. They want to show gang violence. They want to show absentee fathers. They want to show single mothers. They want to show this. And so you get this negative connotation of what being black in this country is, successful in this country is. And there's so, and it's, and it's, and it, when in the end, it's just like anyone else, success or not successful. You know what I'm saying? We just happen to be a minority in this country. And so like I had to get past this whole thing of like, this is what I got to be black. You know what I'm saying? I got to be like, I got to be extra hardcore and shit. You know what I'm saying, man? I can be talking all regular and shit. My mom would like constantly, I'd be like, hey mom, where's dinner at? She goes, behind that preposition. And I was like, she goes, like pull your pants up, do this, get your, no, come here. You know?
Do you think that's also like a byproduct of age as well? Because I feel like in order to like know yourself and become yourself, it takes time. Like, I think you go through phases in your, like, I call it like the pretending years of my life. Like my 20s were pretend years. Like I was pretending to be what the group of people around me and like my job and whatever those things, what society said of me versus like who I actually wanted to be. I think that's like very common. It's hard to sort of buck that trend regardless. It's just not easy. Yeah. Like it takes time.
It's so funny in your 20s. In your 20s, you're playing house.
Yeah.
You're right. You're technically an adult, but if you were to say, do you feel like an adult? Fuck no. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. What are we doing? I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm going to, I'm partying. You know, like I'm going
all the dumb shit I did in my 20s. I didn't.
You know what I'm saying?
It was a joke. It was a
I'm
pretend.
like, you know, you're playing. You're like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, man. Like you're not supposed to. And so like, so it's so funny because like I go to this gym and there's so many like there's early 20-year-olds at stages. There's people in their mid 20s and there's people about to hit 30. And I'm looking at all their transitions and I see it. And I see their fears, and it's so funny because I've been through that shit, and you can't say shit because, like, the thing is, you say something, people will think, "Oh, whatever. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know this." Everyone has their own experiences, right? But I see the doubt in the head. I see like people I talk to that are close to 30. They look like they're about to die from old age, and I'm like,
I think that's what it is.
I think that's what happened. Like, what am I going to be when I'm 30? I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm like, you're not supposed to be where you're at. It is rare to have that kind of discipline. Now, I have friends who've been like, I'm going to be this, and they have always stuck to that. And you know what? That would be nice. But we are in a world full of instant gratification. We want this now. We don't want to cook in the pan to make it dark. We don't want to cook in the wok to make it gummy. We want to instantly make it gummy. And the only way you can ever antiquate something is by cooking in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can't live life unless you cook. I guess that's my analogy. You know, you have to cook. You have.
Well, it's like you want good chicken. You need to marinate that shit.
It takes a little
extra time.
You can't just throw that shit, put some salt and pepper on that, and expect it to be nice and moist. No, you got to freaking you got to fucking do what you got to do in order to get it there. You know,
I love that. I think that is like, it's also one of the reassuring things I think as I've gotten older too, is like realizing that the best things in life take time. Nothing in life that's worth having comes quickly and easily. Like that is the biggest cliche joke in life, but like every overnight success is years and years and years in the making. And I think that's like, it's a relief to know that like hard work takes time. It's not that this is going to be an overnight success, because then it's like you're able to see that the progress will take time to get to where you want to be, and that's nice. When you look at like where your career is at from a voiceover perspective, it's like you've only been doing it for however many years, right? Do you look at like specific goals that you have, like jobs, clients, customers? Like I imagine you're like freelance. How does that like work in terms of like looking towards a future of like what you want out of your career?
So right now it's such a good question because, you know, I'm on the upper 2%, man. I work almost every day voiceovers. It's very rare.
Shit.
It's very fucking rare. I have, knock on my foam padding here in my booth. It's very rare that to be where I am right now. because there's a lot of voiceover people who live from paycheck to paycheck, and they're trying to
Hmm.
get that consistency. And it was from the relationships I've cultivated, and the people that I've gotten that has allowed me to get what I have right now. And so my goals have to always change because it's so easy to be complacent when you have things, which I also think is why you have to struggle, because if anyone's given something free, would you really respect it?
Nope.
No. You have what if someone gives you like a free toy and a Happy Meal? That shit's on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like what? Unless you're told this is going to be $1 million one day, and you have something to back it up. Oh fuck! I'm gonna keep this in a case. I'm gonna make sure it stays pristine,
Hmm.
and that is what people need to do with their career. Because if you're given something, you won't respect it.
Hmm.
You need to have fear. You need to have struggle. You need a fear of loss. You need to have the satisfaction of reward, and all those things to cultivate a career or something that you really have faith in. So what I do is I'm like, my thing is like I want to do more promo. I want to do more trailers within promo.
Hmm.
And I have a really good friend named Gabe Kunda who's just killing it. He's killing it. He's on Marvel movies. You hear Black Panther. He's on Black Panther. He's on
Oh, cool.
Avatar. So if you hear on Avatar, Disney SD,
Yeah,
that's my friend Gabe Kunda, and
that's cool.
he is like a leading voice in promo. I mean, a leading voice in trailers. And so my thing was like, I want more trailers. I want this. I want to be able to do that. And so my thing is like, okay, I want to make sure I get my own distinguishable sound for trailers now. I will. I want to go. I want to fly out to Japan for an anime Q&A. I would love to have that. I would love to be flown out for Comic Cons. I want to have a character in a show that's worthy of people coming in line for me to meet and talk about for conventions. I would love that. I want to do more with Disney. I just did this thing for Disney Plus. It's I could finally talk about it. It was 2 years in the making,
Mhm.
for Zootopia. So I'm in
Oh,
the
cool.
third. Yeah, it's a bunch of short stories that like lined up with the movie, and I act alongside one of my best friends and mentors, Maurice LaMarche, who is a monster in this industry, has done so many voices, uh, voice of my childhood basically, and he kind of like has always been my big brother. And I get to act with him on screen for the first time since we did Transformers Rescue Bots, and 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 that's basically like he plays a shrew. He plays a shrew for Zootopia. He's a shrew. Like I go
Hmm.
ice him. Ice. Blah, 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 blah. So he's like, so I got to be this guy, this rhino boss, where I play his antagonist, and he has to take me out in order for him to gain the status. So they did a parody of Godfather 2, which is one of my favorite movies. I mean, fuck it. I was
Yeah.
like, what? Talk about universal fucking karma. I'm with one of my good friends. I finally cracked Disney's code because I've been auditioning for Disney for years. Years. No, 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 no. But they had been listening to my auditions, and I didn't even audition for this part. They called me up and said, "Oh, can Imari do this part? We've heard his auditions. We love him." I'm like, "What? They actually
Yeah.
listened to my auditions?" And that's how I got it. So my things always change as you progress in your career. You want to constantly challenge yourself as to not get complacent in your career, and as to show that I care enough to keep on evolving, because we are human beings. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't stop growing until the day we die. Honestly,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Like we are accumulating experiences up until the day we leave this earth. And so
yeah.
like you can't stay. So that's the same thing to be said with anything that we do. You need to just keep accumulating your goals.
Yeah, dude, Amari, I fucking love that.
I
Oh,
just
I
thought of
think
that
that
right
is.
now. I just got goosebumps myself, dude. I was
Well, I'm super,
like,
super glad that this has been recorded for posterity
yeah,
purposes because that is, I think that is a cheat code to life. Because
yeah,
if you can start creating lifelong ways to measure yourself, whether it can't be financial, it really can't be, because I think that will just inevitably lead to failure. But if
yeah,
you can have that sort of mentality, like you just said, like creating an alternating version of yourself in a time period of a year, 3, 5, whatever you want it to
yeah,
be, I think that is the cheat code to being successful in life. And
It
fuck,
really
I'm so
is.
glad I got that on tape.
So am I. I'm glad it came out of my
So
head. I
good.
was like, I was feeling. I've been ruminating on that for a long time. I'm just like,
That was great.
Thank
So
you,
good,
bro.
man. Amari, dude, I'm incredibly thankful that you were on the podcast with me today. Dude, I just fucking love this conversation. We could obviously go for hours.
Oh
I
my
have a
god.
super cheesy line. If you've been on my podcast, you're part of my family.
Oh
And
my god.
thank you
Vice versa,
for spending this hour with me today. And have a great rest of your day, man. I really
brother.
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate the chance. Thank you so much for just entrusting me and finding me interesting enough to be on your podcast because I just what you do is important and I think it connects so many people together. So thank you very much for having me on your podcast, man.
Oh, my pleasure. And special shout out to Jackie Paris for setting
Oh
this
my
all
God,
up. She's the
Jackie,
best.
Jackie, I love you, my Jacks. Mwah!
Take it easy, man. Thanks.
Brother, be well, man.